right, guys, today's date, August 29th, 2018, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host with the most, Will Buchanan, and tonight, like I said, every night, it was due every Wednesday on How the Frack We Got Here. We try to look at today's news, as preferably in the last week or so, and also try to figure out this wonderful ride we call life somehow got mysteriously derailed because of an idiot in chief. So, before I get started, I do have to say this is an adult podcast, which is of an adult nature, which means adult language, adult content may or be shown. Viewer discretion is advised. If it is not your cup of tea, now would be the good time to probably leave and put the kids to bed because you don't want them to hear any of this shit. So, I know usually when I start out with this, it usually is nowadays, like I said before, I always look at it as saying, how in the world could we honestly get any lower? You'd be surprised. So usually I would start out with Agent Orange. But he's got so much on him, I don't want to go into him at the moment. What I do want to go into is for those that honestly believe that we have yet to come forward to where we're seen as equal, as far as seen as equal people. What I mean by that is that as a black person, you're always going to, unfortunately, run into idiots. It's the way of life. Nothing will change from that. Nothing's going to be different from that. We keep hoping that these ignorant species that decides to lower us to animals and things of that nature will eventually die out and eventually progression will take over. But that may be years out because ignorance is not hereditary, it's taught. So with that being said, we never try, like I said, we never try as a people that try to look them eye to eye. We never try to look them as far as saying we want equal. No, we should just go ahead and step up and be the people that we are, as we should be. But as those of us who dedicate ourselves to public service, will always run into certain idiots. And like I said, the Trump effect has given those idiots a safe place. It has given those idiots a moment to come out and say exactly what they want to say without fear of catching hands. And let me be very clear. You can say whatever it is that you want to say. It is your constitutional right. However, that right does not absolve you of getting your ass whooped. Just so you know. Because I already know at the bat, any so-called Trump fans or anybody like that decides to, go off the handle and say exactly what they want to say to me, okay, see what happens. But again, the reason why I bring this up is basically because of the Florida governor race. And usually I would say with most states like ours, with the state of Tennessee, we have Marsha Blackburn. And for all you guys who are Marsha Blackburn fans, you're fucking idiots because Marsha Blackburn is a Trump plant. And any woman that literally is behind President Trump is looking to get bent over. And I don't mean that in a sexist way. I mean that you're just going to get screwed like everybody else. Just like that group of black preachers that went up there to go pray for Donald Trump about prison reform. And then several weeks later, he turns around and pulls his support for prison reform because he already got his photo op to let people know he's not racist. I'm with black men of the cloth. How can black people hate me? And yet this whole time, these preachers went up there. We went up there for God. No, you didn't. You went up there for photo ops. You went up there for fame. You didn't go up there as men of God. Because any man of God is not going to look at Trump and immediately start going, I'm going to pray for you. It's like, dude, just get the fuck out the way. I've talked to God. God said, get the fuck out the way. But anyway, but not getting off too far off subject. So, two candidates that were in there, Andrew Gillum and Ron DeSantis. So the reason why those names have been brought up, well, it's because of a certain term Mr. DeSantis tried to use when discussing. Apologize, folks. As soon as I thought the video was playing, it was not. So hang on one second. We're going to try that again and see where it gets us. All right, let's try that one more time.
To monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state. That is not going to work. That's not going to be good for Florida.
Everybody needs to support Ron DeSantis.
DeSantis has since clarified his comment in a statement saying, quote, Ron DeSantis was obviously talking about Florida not making the wrong decision to embrace the socialist policies that Andrew Gillum espouses. To characterize it as anything else is absurd. We do not condone this language and wanted to make our viewers aware that he has since clarified his statement. Ron loves playing with the kids.
Build a wall.
He reads stories.
Then Mr. Trump said, "You're fired." I love that part.
He's teaching Madison to talk.
Make America great again.
People say Ron's all Trump, but he is so much more.
Big league. So good. I'm trying to make Florida even better. He wants to make Florida Venezuela.
What's going to bring us together is our common and shared belief that regardless of where you come from, regardless of what your mother or your father did for a profession, regardless of what side of the tracks you live on, that every single Floridian ought to have their equal and fair shot at the American dream.
The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda.
Yes. I cannot. Yes, you heard it, folks. And what's so funny about DeSantis is that it's funny that the video that they showed, that was his election video. That was his election video, mind you, where it's like everything about it was Trump. And you hear his wife, who looks like a trophy wife, sit there and says, well, everybody thinks that he's all Trump. You've literally plastered Trump campaign shit all over your campaign video. I'm sorry. I'm waiting for the video where you're actually blowing Trump in the Oval Office. Because that, to me, I'm like, shit, you've already gargled the balls, not swallowed. But the thing about DeSantis, which kills me, aside from his over obsession with Trump, mind you, is the fact that he sat there and said, we don't need to monkey up the situation. Now, here's the one thing that kills me, that you're not going to sit there and say, well, I was talking about the situation. There are literally millions upon millions of words that could have been used to describe what could be a destructive situation. We don't need to destroy what we are building here. We don't need to compromise. We don't need to eliminate. We don't need to corrupt. We don't need to do fill in the blank. It could have been any of those words he could have used. But monkey. The funny part is, that was on Facebook too, mind you. I was looking at the comments on Facebook and I was like, I've never seen people say, well, I don't understand what the big deal is. You don't understand what the big deal is because you're not black. We've been associated. See, the thing about this, and this is what kills me. I said, this is truly white privilege at its finest. And this is why I say white privilege exists. Because if a group of people cannot understand how being associated with an animal belittles you, then you've never understood oppression. You've never understood what it's like to literally be considered less than human. And I'm sorry. White people have never experienced that. Black people have experienced that since you decided to go ahead and pick us the fuck up. So again, it is amazing to me where I've seen so many people go, well, he's talking about situation. Here's my challenge. Would he truly have used that word if his opponent was white? Like I said, this is all a Trump effect. This is all circumstance. Every word carefully put out, every detail carefully implicating Trump, because you want to curry the would-be dictator's favor. That's why his commercial looked like an ode to Trump. At this point, I'm almost sure his wife has a sexual harassment suit against Trump, but she won't come forward because you don't want to fuck up the money. But that's the reason why I sit there, and that's why I say it is very, very, and like I said, actually, Tariq Nasheed, I can't take credit for this. Tariq Nasheed said this. He said, pretty much, black people can't be racist. We're prejudiced. We're prejudiced because we've experienced racism, and through that, we have prejudices towards certain groups. So black people can't be racist. White people are, and in some ways, they used to be so subconscious about hiding it, but now it's out there. It's desensitized. It's where you can say it now. It's almost to a point to where you can say it without fear. And that's the problem. It's just that you see a guy, you see a over-tanned, overcooked baby as a commander-in-chief saying anything and everything and not having to apologize for it. DeSantis, as you can see here, says something, and his speaker apologizes. The local state news, Fox News, clarifies for him, but you don't see him talking about it, and that alone should tell you a lot. But I do love the way Gilliam handled this, because they actually went to him about this, and this is what he said.
Let me start with the controversy today by your opponent, Congressman Ron DeSantis. You heard something and you said it was a page from the Donald Trump campaign manual. Do you want an apology from Congressman DeSantis? Do you think you're owed one?
You know, let me be articulate and clear here, which is we're better than this in Florida. I believe the congressman can be better than this. I regret that his mentor in politics is Donald Trump. But I do believe that the voters of the state of Florida are going to reject the politics of division. They believe that we're better than that, which is why I'm going to spend my time over the next 2+ months getting around this state, talking about the issues that matter to everyday voters in this state. Kitchen table issues, healthcare, education, making sure we clean up our environment, which our governor has been derelict with the Republican legislature to do. And I think that's how we're going to win in November. But it's clear that the congressman is going to join Donald Trump in the swamp. We're going to leave them there. We're going to continue to press toward a higher mark.
Now, I got to give the man credit, because you just sat there. You just sat there and you saw this man literally call you a monkey. No matter how you cut the muscle on that, you can argue that all you want to. Just because they didn't say it to your face doesn't mean it wasn't directed at you. We don't need anyone to monkey up the situation. They look at it, and I've said this before, if you are not what they believe you to be as a stereotype, they have to insult you, because it's not beyond them to see what they're already used to and categorize as corrupt and bad and just stuck in their ways. Trust me, as a black man living in the South, as a black man living in the South, I have locks, I have a beard, I'm a little bit of a big guy. Immediately I am seen, until I open my mouth, immediately I am seen as part of the negative crowd. No one looks at my profession. Nobody looks at my degrees. No one looks at all those things. But you know what they look at? What they're trained to look at. Not this. But that's the reason why. And people of that nature, those who have white privilege, those who have been trained, those who have been taught to understand that there's a division and that they can talk about it, didn't always used to be like that. And I give Andrew Gilliam a lot of props, because that man sat there and said, look, he can sit there and say all shit he wants to. I'm about cleaning up Florida. I'm about finally doing something right. He's trying to be part of the solution. So it's interesting where some mainstream wants to invoke some anger out of us. And I give it to former President Obama and Michelle, because I don't know if y'all guys remember Michelle, beautiful Michelle. She got put through the fucking ringer. Oh, she was called an ape. Oh, she was called a man. Oh, that's not how a woman should do. Oh, a woman shouldn't speak out. Oh, and mostly it was Fox News and other alt-right publications and syndications out there couldn't stop talking about Michelle Obama. But Mrs. Obama turned around and did a whole lot more than the last 5 first ladies combined. Oh, sorry, guys. So, camera pros again. Apologize. So, she wanted to get kids healthy. She wanted to, really grow gardens, get kids to actually know more than just their neighborhoods. She was wanting to do all those things. So again, it amazes me so that a woman who was simply, and keep in mind, Michelle, before she became a first lady, was an accomplished lawyer, accomplished and successful lawyer, had put herself through two colleges, multiple degrees. Michelle could have been president on her accolades alone if she wanted to run. But keep in mind, she got put through the ringer. And now that we have the first hostage up there, now all of a sudden we got to be fucking nice. A woman who barely speaks English, her Be Best campaign about bullying, and she's married to the biggest bully we have? That's like Darth Vader having a wife, but Darth Vader's having a don't go Sith theme. Your husband is literally the epitome of it. But again, it amazes me so. Like I said, when you see the direction that some people go into, and it's almost to a point where you see one side is feeding a narrative. The other side is trying to change the narrative. The other side is saying, oh, well, we already have a great president. My baby loves him. My wife loves him. The other side is saying, we have a problem. We need to change it. It starts with us. And trust me, if I was in Florida, I'd be voting for the guy, just because the fact of the matter is he has a different change. Now, and you're right, baby. We had a first lady with a purpose. And you're right, Vaughn, too. She would have been a great president herself. Michelle, I still think that one day she gonna run. And you know what? Not to get sidetracked, but here's 2 things in life I hope happen. Number 1, Mrs. Obama changes her mind. I hope. That's I'm not saying maybe, I would hope next year or the year after that, I would hope Mrs. Obama changes her mind and she runs for office. Because trust me, she wins by a landslide. Regardless of who her running mate is, Michelle will win. Because you got to think, she handled the first lady like a president. So if you can imagine that, she handled her role as a president, not as a first lady, as a president. She ran shit. So of course, based on what she knows, based on her time, based on her profession, and who her husband was, leader of the Harvard Law Review, taught constitutional law for 12 years, of course the man's gonna be able to sit there and know some shit. Like Nancy Reagan married Neil Brown. Yeah, pretty much. And yep, Vaughn, she is thick. But again, I hope, my sincere hope is that down the road, she wants to run. And if that doesn't happen, you know what I want to truly screw with people? And I know this will probably never happen. I want a Muslim lesbian woman who is pro-choice to run for president. Why? Because you've hit every nail on the head of racist people. I guarantee that combination will never happen. I would wish for it to happen, but I want something different. Now, I could be on that train of saying a woman should be president. I have no problem with it. I was ready to accept Hillary. I was ready to accept Hillary because Bernie didn't get it, and Bernie got screwed. But at the same time, I was ready to vote for Hillary because Hillary was a far better choice than what we have now. But again, these are one of the things that kills me because, again, it's feeding a narrative. Trump at this point knows he's done. Trump at this point sees the writing on the wall. Like I said in the previous podcast, Manafort has flipped. His campaign manager, Paul Manafort, has flipped. His lawyer has flipped. 15 indictments, 8 prison counts, and it still keeps growing about everything that Mueller is finding. And I said this a year ago. Richard Nixon, when he went down for Watergate, it took more than 2 years into his presidency until it got to the point where he had to resign to avoid prosecution. We're getting into 2 years. And like I said, if you believe The Simpsons, Trump didn't make it past his first year. Trump didn't make it past his first term. So if The Simpsons are anything like the Mayans, we're good. We just have to ride this out and let Mueller do his thing. But switching gears a little bit, because like I said, there's still a shitload on Trump that I want to go into. But something that I read today actually caught my eye. And honestly, it's something that I thought I would never, ever see. A former police officer actually going to jail for a shooting of a black person. And keep in mind, blew my mind too. So let you guys play us. Let me see what you think.
People who've been following cases like this of unarmed black men in the United States who have been shot by police officers across the country. Many of these people saying that it is rare that you see convictions of police officer in these cases, and that stands up to analysis as well. So this guilty verdict sent by this Dallas County jury here yesterday was stunning, and the family of Jordan Edwards, the 15-year-old young man who was shot and killed by this police officer back in April of last year, extremely emotional. The family of Jordan Edwards celebrated the guilty verdict, and his attorney says this is not just about Jordan Edwards, but about the many other cases around the country where the circumstances and the outcomes have been much different.
This guilty of murder to us is just, when you think about it, you think about all the cases, all the unarmed black and brown men and women who have been victims to police brutality and who have not received justice. When we see this verdict, it gives young boys and girls some sense of safety, that their lives matter.
So right now, the punishment phase of this trial is going on right now. Testimony being heard in that, people talking about how wonderful Jordan Edwards was. The police officer in this case, Roy Oliver, will also have a chance to put on testimony as well. So that could take some time, and the jury will have to decide the punishment. The officer faces anywhere between 5 years in prison up to life in prison, Erica.
Okay. So that one is a little bit of an older story. I mean, there was actually an update about that today. So Roy Oliver, if anybody doesn't know the story, so basically, officer got a police call about a disturbance about a party. The victim was actually one of the kids in a car that the cop pulled over. So the music was loud. The cop was trying to get their attention, and he smashed the window. So because he smashed the window, the driver panicked and took off. And that's when Mr. Oliver discharged his firearm, killing said victim. So, you know, I know when most people, when they hear an officer take the life of an unarmed black kid, we find ourselves going through that cycle. I mean, we're still here in Nashville with Daniel Hambrick. We're still waiting to see. Like I've been saying about the story for same way. He was running from the cops. His back was turned. The cop stopped, planted his feet, aimed, and fatally shot Daniel Hambrick. And the officer kept saying he had a gun. Now, I have scoured, every chance I get, I try to find a news article where it shows me where the actual weapon was found that the cops saw. And to this day, I have yet to see one news article publication turn around and say a weapon was found at the scene. So no weapon was found. You fired and killed an unarmed black kid. And I do admit, to a certain extent in this story, it does give me a little bit of hope. Now, an update on that story, though, I'm going to say the guy got 15 years. Now, if you're me, yes, I am happy that the family got some justice and some closure. That guy will never be a cop again. He's an inmate. And and cops don't do too well in prison unless they put them in protective custody, which they usually do. But 15 years does seem 15 years kind of seems kind of weak. Now, I mean, they could have taken into the fact of his service record, if he's never had any problems, shit like that. I get that. But it's hard for me to look at you and go, you ended a life, and yet 15 years of your life will be taken from you. Technically 7 or 8 if he gets on parole. 7 or 8 years if he gets on parole at that point. But it's a small step. I mean, granted, it's a step nonetheless, because if you're like me, you've been sitting back, but way before Trayvon Martin, you've been sitting back to finally see justice for taking a black kid's life, an unarmed black kid's life, an unarmed black man's life, really. You've been waiting to see that. And we see it now, and I'm like I said, it's not the fact that we're satisfied. I feel like and I'm not saying the guy should be given the death penalty, but you killed a kid. In my mind, you killing a child is the same way like you killing a law enforcement officer. If you kill a law enforcement officer, your life is basically over. If you kill an unarmed child, your life should be basically over, which means that if it's life in prison, then it should be life in prison. It shouldn't be 15 years, which basically means in the court system, 8 years, then parole and you're out. You've learned nothing. But then again, this could open the door as far as police officers finally being convicted, because I am so tired of seeing a cop go in and they swear up and down that they're the victims. They swear up and down that they're the victims and they get to walk. Their victim can't defend themselves because they're victims in the ground. But you're right, Vaughn. And that's why I'm struggling with that. 15 years is BS. And like I said, he should have got life in prison. But like I said, they could have taken the mitigating circumstances about his service record, if he's never had any problems, someone talking on his behalf. Because it's always funny that the cop always needs the greatest amount to prove they're not a murderer, yet the person in the ground has to defend themselves, but they can't because the cop made sure of that. But anywho, not to go too deep in that, because I've always said it before and I'll say it again because I'm saying this on recorded video. Fuck the police. So, with that also being said, like I said, we're finally going to get to Agent Orange. So, Agent Orange, Mr. Trump, sir, I think you were a little bit wrong about Puerto Rico, especially how many people died. So, I'm going to play this and you guys can take it from there.
I think we did a fantastic job in Puerto Rico. We're still helping Puerto Rico. The governor is an excellent guy, and he is very happy with the job we've done. We have put billions and billions of dollars into Puerto Rico, and it was a very tough one. Don't forget, their electric plant was dead before the hurricane. If you look back on your records, you'll see that that plant was dead. It was shut. It was bankrupt. It was out of business. They owed tremendous amounts of money. They had it closed up. And then when the hurricane came, people said, what are we going to do about electricity? That wasn't really the hurricane. That was gone before the hurricane. But we've put a lot of money and a lot of effort into Puerto Rico. And I think most of the people in Puerto Rico really appreciate what we've done. Texas healed quickly, and the people were incredible. Florida healed quickly, and everybody worked very hard. Puerto Rico was actually more difficult because of the fact it's an island. It's much harder to get things onto the island. With Texas, you're land-based. With Florida, you're land-based. Puerto Rico is a very difficult situation. I only hope they don't get hit again, because they were hit by 2 right in a row, and really the likes of which we have never seen before. But the people of Puerto Rico are great people. They work very hard. But Puerto Rico, I would say, was by far the most difficult of the group. And, right now, FEMA and all of the people that work so hard there, they were very brave, and they have done some job. But Puerto Rico had a lot of difficulties before it got hit, and we're straightening out those difficulties even now. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Yeah, I think... Oh.
Everybody.
Okay. Hang on, guys. Yes, Donald Trump. Puerto Rico is an island. You know what else is an island? Jamaica, Costa Rica, Hawaii, Baja. I mean, we can keep going down the list, but Puerto Rico is difficult because it's an island. Puerto Rico's power station was already dilapidated before the hurricane. But you're doing a great job. The reason why I bring up this story is because the Trump administration reported that 60 or so people died in the hurricane attack for Puerto Rico. Here's the problem with that. They got that woefully wrong. As it came out today, the death toll that they touted, which was 64, actually, after looking at it, was 2,975 people unfortunately lost their lives. But what kills me about Puerto Rico, what kills me about Trump, is that Trump is literally, in his mind, the hero in his own story. He touts Puerto Rico like it's a third world country, when in fact, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. Now, in my opinion, they should actually be made a state so Puerto Ricans can actually vote and go from there. That's just my opinion because, like I said, it's considered a U.S. territory. It should be considered U.S. soil, and the people there should be considered U.S. citizens because we pretty much claim the territory. Same way when Hawaii became the 50th state. That being said, it is amazing to me that he turns around and says that they're doing a great job in Puerto Rico. We spent billions and billions of dollars into helping them. You spent less than $20 million. $20 million in a hurricane-ravaged area is not going to be enough to help people. Puerto Rico is still without power. In the same sense that Flint, Michigan still has crappy water. In the same sense that Flint, Michigan, the kids there who were affected by the water, I mean, birth defects, learning disabilities, things of that nature, eating issues, things of that nature, they're not getting the help they need. And the government that allowed this to happen is still in power. No one has been indicted, no one has went to jail. But you're going to sit there and say that Flint, Michigan is doing a great job. Puerto Rico is doing a great job. Florida and Houston recovered so quickly. No, people in Florida are still recovering from a hurricane that happened 4 or 5 months ago. People in Houston are still recovering from their hurricane that happened almost 6 months ago. I don't know if you ain't noticed, Trump, but it takes a lot longer to reply from a hurricane-ravaged area than what you think. But at the same time, to get the death toll so wrong, because here's my thing. If you don't know how many people that died, just say it. 64 makes it seem like, oh, the hurricane wasn't that bad. It's just a day. You're turning the narrative from from a natural disaster where folks were in the way of it and some folks lost their lives, and you're making it seem like it's their fault. And that's what annoys me about Trump so much. Trump annoys me because if you're not white, you're not taken care of. If you're a minority, it's your fault. And that's what he does. That's why his base loves him so, because he is their wet dream. He is literally the stripper on the pole that they want so badly, but they don't have enough money to get into VIP with. That's how people idolize Trump. And what kills me, the simple fact of the matter, is that he turns around and, like I said, he only takes care of certain folks. You never see him go to Flint, Michigan to go care for the kids. You don't even see the first lady go to Flint, Michigan. You've never seen him go to Florida during the hurricane and Pulse nightclub shootings and things of that nature. You didn't see him go to Houston when Houston got ravaged. That was most of the city and a little bit of the NFL players going in to help them out. And now I think he's never been to Puerto Rico since the hurricane. But you know what's so funny? He'll turn around to there and tell he loves everybody, but yet he hasn't yet to be to a war zone area like Afghanistan and Iraq and Pakistan and things north of the Northern African border. He's never been to any of those spots. But you know where he has been? His hotels, his resorts, that he is charging the American people. He's basically charging and paying himself to stay at these hotels, but he'll never go to a place for the American people, which also is another thing that bothered me so, because another thing I'm going to bring up was that he turned around and he sat there and said that, you know, of course, the farmers with the tariffs, and if you don't know what a tariff is a tax on a good that's either imported or exported. And Trump was saying, oh, we just had bad deals, okay? We had bad deals going out, and we got to raise the tariffs because overseas, they are killing us. They are killing us. And it's about time we take our back and we make America great again. And you're going to line up my pockets. You're going to love my shit. So when that happened, farmers, especially here in Tennessee, were all feeling it because tariffs means that less products getting purchased, which means you have a whole lot of certain goods you can't sell. Farmers started complaining. This is what Trump did. Let me go ahead and pull this up, and we go from there.
Aircraft and motorcycle makers, pharmaceuticals, plastics and paper products, breweries, wineries, and distilleries. Coast to coast, the message is the same. There's danger ahead in the trade war with China.
This is just the beginning for consumers with regards to worrying about price increases that could be coming.
Jumps in the cost of steel and aluminum already have companies announcing expected price hikes. For power tools, washing machines, canned sodas, and many parts of farm country are facing a potential double whammy. Higher costs for equipment and parts from China and lower profits for the products they sell there. Some in Iowa started the year with trade war worries.
The pigs, you're probably talking $200 to $300 million impact already.
Now there is talk of less farm money for local stores, restaurants, and shops.
It's a matter of concern when your largest soybean export customer is having negotiations with your government.
That said, rural areas voted overwhelmingly for Trump. The worst predictions so far remain just that, predictions. And some seem willing to weather the hard times in hopes he can win the better deals he promised.
Farmers are tough, and we'll find a way to get through it.
At a stop in Iowa, President Trump nodded to the trade clash with the European Union and acted as if the problems are all in the past, although the EU has not lifted its retaliatory tariffs.
That whole soybean thing is now going to be opened up. No tariffs, no nothing, free trade.
Still, some members of the president's own party are skeptical, especially of the big aid package proposed for farm communities. Nebraska Senator Ben Sass, this trade war is cutting the legs out from under farmers, and the White House's plan is to spend $12 billion on gold crutches. Iowa Congressman David Young.
What farmers really want, they want trade, they want markets, and not necessarily any kind of bailout or aid.
Well, it's funny how he sat there and said, it's funny how they sit there and say it. Well, they don't want bailouts. Then sounds like the piece and the person that you brought in is the person that's actually going to be the one that does you in. Trump said again, it's why I tell people, it's like, it's amazing to me when folks turn around and be like, well, why is he doing this? I'm like, you know what you bought? He's a con man. A con man doesn't make you feel poor. He makes you feel happy about the choices that you make. And it's all voluntary. In this case with the tariffs, yes, everything from soda cans, washing machines, anything steel related, because steel isn't produced anymore in America. It's actually produced in China, which is brought over here for the fact that it's cheaper. So with that being said, a lot of you people are going, well, what happened to him bringing steel back to America and bringing coal and bringing the coal industry back and bringing fracking back? All three are dead industries. The coal industry is dead. Please accept it. The fracking industry is dead. Please accept it. The fact that steel can be made cheaper and faster and overseas versus making it here locally and more expensive, yes, any business-minded person is going to be like, the cheaper the source, the bigger the profits. Of course they're going to go overseas. But you putting tariffs on goods that are getting imported, exported, and the EU, the European Union, also putting taxes on American goods means, guess what? In a capitalist society, all the prices are going to go up. The only person that's going to be truly paying for it is the consumer. So again, if you haven't noticed, this is how we got into the Great Depression from the beginning. Is the fact of the matter is the boys at the top are the ones playing with your money, And if all shit goes sideways, they're covered. You're not. And that alone should be fucking scary about what this man is trying to do. But moving on as far as that goes, I know sometimes that with Republicans, I'm hard on you people. Just like this, it's like you guys to me are like black Republicans. I know they exist out there, but just like the Republican Party, I will never understand how black men, black women, I'm sorry, let me take it back. How black men, women, and and other minorities can support a group that is literally against you. It is against you. They are conservative, which is actually bullshit. That's honestly forgot the words I was gonna say. Yeah, that's what come back to haunt me. So they consider conservative, but they're not. They say they're family values. They get caught in more scandals than anybody else. They sit there and say that they're pro-life. And I'm sorry, if you're pro-life, you're full of shit. Because if the thing about it is, if a unborn fetus gets aborted, bothers you, but yet a child's education and well-being seems to pass you right on by because it's not your child, then please shut the fuck up. You are not pro-life. You are pro-birth. That's what you are. Because if you were truly pro-life, you would be raising hell about all those kids that are still at ICE detention centers. That because the government had misplaced their parents, you would be screaming up the high hills. It's not just about pro-life. Isn't just about protecting an embryo that is still going through a metamorphosis before it becomes sentient. It is about all life. That's how it should be. But then again, it comes back to being hypocritical. There's the word I want to say, hypocritical. And also at the same time, the reason why I'm getting so far away from this is because Republicans are honestly racist. And I can hear a lot of Republicans now. Well, the Democrats ain't so best either, so why are you siding with them? I'm not siding with the Democrats as well. Matter of fact, I have a beef with the Democrats. I have a beef with the Democrats because you know what? You guys, when you first had President Obama didn't initially have a House and a Senate against him. Not initially. For about the first 2 years of his presidency, he actually had a Democratic House and Democratic Senate, and they didn't choose to work with him. So when the Tea Party came around during the primaries, they swept the board. Tea Party and Mitchell Turtle McConnell, and Paul Ryan were all in there to obstruct President Obama. And he accomplished a whole lot of shit at the time that this all went down. I have to give President Obama credit because he got a lot of stuff done with opposition. Imagine if he actually got stuff done if he had cooperation. So the reason why I'm harping on Democrats, because again, you guys at the primaries coming up, we've been under Republican dictatorship for 8 years. If you guys seriously want to change the clock on this, I'm saying the things will have to be done. And I said the reason why I say things have to be done is that come the primaries, first and foremost, impeach Trump. I wish I could be like Robert Reich and say annul the presidency, because if it's found out that he did, like I said, with the investigation shit going on, if it's found out that Trump did win the presidency illegally, then yes, his presidency should be annulled, and every decision, executive action, and legal ramification that involved him should be reversed. It is in the Constitution. But also at the same time with impeaching Trump, there comes to a point where if you're truly going to be for the people, be for the people. Reverse a lot of the bullshit that was done in the last 8 years and show that you want improvement. Now, am I expecting a lot? Not really, because I've always said it best. Republicans, Democrats are the same coin. There are multiple parties out there, but those are the only two parties that are ever talked about because those are the two parties that someone's ever nominated for. It's never been an independent Green Party or any other party nominated president. Although they're on the ballot, they're not advertised and doing so many debates. But again, who never knows. The reason why I say this is because Democrats, and I don't have a video for this, I'm sorry. It's just that what Democrats just did, and when you read the headline about just confirm lots of Trump's judges so they could skip down. so they can skip town. What ticks me off about this is that we Democrats have been holding out on judge nominations that Trump handpicked people for lower courts. Now, why is this important? This is important because these judges can actually change the decisions on a lot of things. Now, keep in mind, these are president-appointed judges, which means that they're sticking a certain narrative. For Agent Orange, that probably means these people are anti-abortion, anti-LGBT, and pretty much racist, but fall alongside of white nationalist groups. Again, when you have this many judges out of the 15 that he selected, the Democrats could have just sat. I mean, it only took one. And keep in mind, this was the Senate. The Senate had to confirm this. So 15 Democrats in the Senate, only one need to say no to halt the process. But they decided to go ahead and say, you know what? Go ahead and pass on through. So pretty soon there'll be 15 judges with Trump's mindset that are going to be in court deciding over cases. All because Democratic people wanted to go home. You know, I work a job. And yeah, my job sometimes can be taxing. It can be. But do I wish for the ability to just say, you know what, stamp this, fix that, order this? I would love to be able to sit there and say, yeah, I did all that so I can go home. No. I mean, politicians at this point are kind of like professional players. I mean, granted, the money you get isn't coming from your government salary. It's coming from your endorsement deals that you take, because lobbying is still legal. You can still take campaign donations, because campaign donations is a legal way of saying, let me pay you for your services. So Democrats, I am disappointed, especially you, Chuck Schumer. I'm disappointed because you were the face of just opposing Agent Orange in every aspect. Now, I'm not saying Maxine Waters was a part of this, because she was not. Because I can only imagine if she did, then that would kind of put a black eye on everything that she said, because she's been pro-Trump. She's been pro-Trump since Jump Street. So again, it would be interesting to see what comes from this. Now, like I said before, when you have 15 Trump-like-minded judges presiding over cases, that could change. That actually could change the way we look at things and how cases are being handled. I'm not saying Roe versus Wade will ever be overturned. And for those that don't know, that's about legal abortion. I'm not even saying Brown versus Board of Education will ever be overturned, about making sure that everybody has equal education. But I am saying that any decision that going forward will definitely be compromised by it, and that alone is fucking scary. But the last thing I was going to talk about today was for those who don't know who Paris Denard is. I keep saying Paris Denard is pretty much that guy who actually Paris Denard is that black guy that every racist white guy says is a black friend. And if you don't know who Paris Denard is, let me give you a little bit of what he's about.
With the private sector that involve my security clearance. Zero. I get $0 from consulting companies that deal with the U.S. government. Are we clear?
Well, I will be clear in saying that everybody in Washington, D.C. knows if you don't want to be honest about it, that's on you. But if you have a security clearance and you keep it, you get more money to have it.
We're done. Get out.
Phil, it's not your show.
25 years in the service, and this
Don't be
shit
so
I get.
defensive about
Get
this.
out.
Don't be so defensive about this. Your voice is still here. You can still do whatever you want. But the politicalization of the intelligence community under this administration, with the people coming on here every day tweeting and talking about this administration, you all have made it about politics, not the president.
Let's take a beat here for a second. And Phil, I appreciate your patience because I know it's getting personal here. Chris, I do a point of fact here. Right. And Phil makes a point, which is a point of fact. When a Phil Mudd, who serves on an advisory board for counterterror threats, goes and participates in conversations at the agency about those threats, he's not getting paid for that.
And that's how
when Bill McRaven is consulted on counterterror operations because he led dozens of missions, deadly missions, where soldiers risk their lives, he's not paid for that. And what you seem to be doing here is saying that because people have jobs outside of government, after they leave government, that therefore you're saying that is justification to take away their clearances when government and agencies rely on them for their counsel? Is that what you're arguing?
What I'm arguing, Jim, is that, and I appreciate every one of those persons' service, and I know how important
everyone in the intelligence community, sort of currently and the past, are in the role that they play for this country. But what I'm talking about is the private sector. Let's not act like all these men and women sit at home all day and just consult with the federal government and don't earn a living. Everybody knows, Jim, that a part of keeping your clearance means you get more money for having the clearance. When you consult and when you have contracts with other companies and when you set up your own firms, this is what happens.
Phil, he's making an argument there, and you made your point on what you do for government. What's your response to Paris's argument here?
Well, we got 24 hours. I got a simple suggestion. Go to the original 15 signatories of the letter yesterday and ask how much income by a percentage they make from their security clearances. Mine, 0. Thanks a lot.
Here's a question I want to put to you.
Okay, so I won't go too far in that. I wanted to show who Paris Denard was. Now, Paris Denard, he was the former director of Black Outreach for President Bush, the second version. The more I hear about that title, the more I just want to sit there and go, how can you, as a Black person, take a position that's called Director of Black Outreach? That's like being a bear and you're being told to go sell Golden Grams. It's almost along the lines of just saying, why? I mean, it's almost insulting, really. But again, the reason why I'm laughing about this person, because I always say, people always, like I said, karma does get you. And man, did get Paris Denard, because you haven't heard this story. I'm just gonna go ahead and play it in this form because it's just fun to turn around and keep saying it. But as you can see, he's been suspended by CNN because pending of misconduct allegations. In this case, if you're wondering, it's sexual assault when he was a former dean in another college. What a face only a mother could love. So basically, he was allegedly fired from a job at Arizona State University for making sexually explicit comments and gestures toward women. And Denard has told them that he believes the allegations are false. Now, the funny part about this whole thing,
High-level security clearances, your contracts and your consulting give pay you a lot more money because of the access that you have. I hope the president continues to do this, and I hope he adds Omarosa to the list, because if she has a clearance, she too, because of her actions, should have it revoked.
Well, I don't know if I put Omarosa in the same category of the 75 people who signed those letters, but Phil, I imagine you wanted to react.
So it's interesting where, and like I said, it's interesting where he talks so high and mighty, and to think what takes him down is his previous actions at a university he was an administrator at, where they said that he was, gesturing about, oral services and telling a woman that he wants to fuck them and stuff like that. Here's my thing. I never understood why guys in power, because they're in power, they're in a very influential area, can just sit there and tell a woman anything and everything and be happy in saying it. I mean, yes, we have a Me Too movement. Yes, there is people that are finally coming forward and explaining the fact of their sexual assaults and rapes and things of that nature, and that's wonderful. It's great that people should be able to go out and say it. The thing is, what kills me is that you have individuals such as Mr. Paris who now have stories like that coming back to haunt him. And I personally think it's perfect. That's karma to me. That's me saying, oh, well, you finally got your comeuppance, sir. To be all Mr. High and Mighty and be pro-Trump, and then come to find out you couldn't keep your dick in your pants. Nice. So the other part about this is just that he's not the only person he has one other person in his corner. And that other person, honestly, is Candace Owens. Now, if you have any idea who Candace Owens is, I've actually mentioned her a couple of times on the podcast. I literally consider her the Black Tommy Lauren, because anybody knows what Tommy Lauren is. Tommy Lauren is nothing more than the mouthpiece for Fox News that she's served narrative talking points. Candace Owens believes that a lot of Black people are basically held under the plantation by the Democrats, and that they're basically that anybody that talks outside the plantation is pretty much getting exiled. As she says right here in the Twitter page, if you can't read it, I'll go ahead and read it for you. Here's a viral clip of an uppity Black standing up to the intelligence community on national Tennessee. This garnered praise from @RealDonaldTrump. 2 days later, sexual assault allegations from 2014 surface, and he's fired. Well, here's the problem with that, Candace. Number one, CNN hasn't fired him. He's still suspended. As of now, he's still suspended, pending an investigation. So, lynched? Okay. So, I already have a problem with Candace, because if you go on, and I usually do this, when people, come up to a certain point, and I say when they reach a certain status, then I have to go back and see if anything has changed about them. And in Candace Owens, if you go to her YouTube page, you'll notice that it started from a year ago, but the origination started from 3 years ago. And there actually is some video out there of her speaking progressively. She wasn't the hard-nosed conservative that she is right now, which leads to tell me that, hey, someone was basically taking the money to play a role in order to get ahead in life. Because if you go to Candace Owens' YouTube page, that's all she talks about now. It's just that you need to get out of this mindset. You need to get out of this mindset that they're controlling you, that you're the victim and you're not the victim and stuff like this. I'm like, you're the problem. And I said I was kind of hoping for a Black Republican, a Black conservative that could sit there and actually speak some sense. When really, if you look at Candace Owens, replace her with Tommy Lauren, it's still the same talking points. But now she's coming out defending Paris Denard, because Paris Denard apparently got caught with his hands in the cookie jar, and apparently the cookie jar being his pants, and his pants were off, and apparently trying to get some, is finally getting nailed. Now, I'll admit, when sexual allegations come up, I used to be like 2014, 2018. It's going to come down to he said, she said, unless there's irrefutable evidence to say otherwise, or enough clout to where a jury will sit there and convict. Now, I'm not saying that every person that comes up is lying. I am just saying, like I said in the previous podcast, it is so much harder to convict when time is against you. I mean, Bill Cosby can be argued from here until the end of time. But let's be honest, 40 plus women come up, only one woman has a case against him. It seems a little dicey. Now, I'm not saying it comes down to he said, she said, but after 40 years later, it pretty much is a he said, she said argument. That also being said, it shouldn't be, if you're a victim, and I stress this heavily, if you are a victim, if something happened to you that you didn't want to happen to you, please, oh, please speak up. Please, oh, please go to the authorities. Please, oh, please put in that report. Because as you have seen, you don't have to have evidence. I'm not saying that you need to have evidence. I'm just saying if you have enough clout to where it's almost to the point where they don't want to go to court, oh, you got them. Guilt is if you think about it, the telltale heart will say all. So I always say it best. I say, look at Kevin Spacey, look at Harvey Weinstein, look at I keep going down the list, but there's also some unfortunate people who also got taken out, like James Gunn. James Gunn got taken out for comments that he said years ago, although he brought up first and apologized. But Disney can't have that because they're not going to let Marvel, their cash cow, get offended. But in this case, not to get away from that, Candace Owens is one of those people that just make me just want to just pull my hair out, because she's a Kanye West type. And what Kanye West is, Kanye West will swear up and down he's a genius, but really he's been off his meds for way too long. And being with the Kardashians means he doesn't have a soul anymore. So forget ever having good music again. You might as well hold on to College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, because in my mind, those are the three best Kanye albums we will ever get. Because 808s and Heartbreak and everything else after that, no. But it is amazing to me that she'll sit there and say, well, he was lynched. I said, really? Why the shock words? And it comes down to the fact of the matter is these individuals, just like Candace, just like Paris, just like Diamond and Silk when they were on the Trump campaign trail, they're the Sambos. They're the black people that are put out in front to protect an idiot and to make him look smarter than what he is. You're performers. And the thing about that bothers us that much is that you are performers who are literally feeding a narrative that doesn't need to happen. But you'll steady more keep feeding that narrative because that's what you know. And that's scary because if you will take $1 to feed that narrative, I can only imagine what the true price is if you're willing to do anything and everything. But aside from that, we're going to leave that here for now, as far as that goes. So thank you all who are all jumped in to watch. Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you, Angie. Thank you guys for watching live. And like I said, on the playback, you can always respond back to me. That way we can have a conversation. And just a little bit of shameless plugging before I leave. I know you guys probably saw me earlier on the I Get That Reference Gaming podcast with Vaughn as we went over Cyberpunk 2077. It's basically going to be, and like I said before, the podcast and the actual trailer are available on the I Get That Reference page on YouTube. I'm sorry, well, on YouTube and also on Facebook. If you're already on Facebook, you never joined our page before, just type in I Get That Reference. That's I get with an I. Our page will come up. It is open to everyone. I can't keep stressing that enough. It is open to everyone. It is open to everyone, which means that you are welcome to join us and talk to us and conversate us as if we're just family, kids, and cousins. The only condition that we have is that you be active and participate. Post something, talk about something, reply back to somebody, get a conversation started. Be active, just don't be creepy. That's all we ask. Now, aside from this podcast that does happen every Wednesday, I know usually from 9 to 10. I know we're kind of bordering on midnight right now, but thank you guys for still watching and watching the replay. But also a little bit of a change on the programming. Usually my Off Limits podcast, which usually runs Saturday from 2 to 3, will actually be happening this Friday from 9 to 10. So we will have a very special Friday edition. I Get That podcast for the week. Let me not forget my boy Vaughn, Big Young VZA Dot, also has the I Get That Reference BSTs, which he did have one earlier this evening. He also has his Rhythm This, where you can reminisce over the rhythm. He also has his Random as Fuck with Uncle VZ, which usually happens in the mornings. All of those shows are actually on his calendar. So if you look up Big Young, if you look up I Get That, you go to I Get That Reference, or you go to A. Stephen Weatherspoon on Facebook, you'll be able to see the calendar and have his time set up. I need to follow suit and actually have a calendar with my time set up, so that way you guys have that as well. And also my brother from another Miller Trace also has the Bump Down, which I believe there might be a new episode of that tomorrow after Rhythm This. I would say this, look up Trace Brown on Facebook to follow him as he lets you know when the Bump Down will be happening. It's definitely something that you should watch about music, is whether it's what's hot, what's not, what's happening on the underground and the mainstream, and just the intelligent conversations this brother has between him and Vaughn are definitely some interesting ones, some funny ones, but definitely not one should be missed. And finally, after all said that and said, the reason why we have How the Frack We Got Here is because to analyze exactly how the fuck we got here. Because the only way we can get it out of this hole is to identify the shovel, put it down, and then climb up from there. Because what's the whole point of digging a hole if you're not going to let go of something that's actually got you down there in the first place? So, with that being said, this has been and I completely forgot before I actually end this. I talked about YouTube. We actually do have all our videos on YouTube. So if you look up I Get That Reference, if you look up How the Frack We Got Here, if you look up Off Limits Podcast, all those pages should come up under our names. Please like, share, and subscribe. Every podcast that we've done will be available on those sites. So please like, share, and subscribe. If you know some people that like this, then share it out to them too. We're all about bringing people together, and that's what we're trying to do here. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you guys for watching this on the live and the replay. I've been Will Buchanan. This has been How the Frack We Got Here. Y'all have a good night. Peace.